What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 44 of the Downtown Browntown podcast. I'm your host, Downtown Brown. Today, we're going to go over some off-season news for you, Milwaukee Bucks style. Just in case anyone forgot, your Milwaukee Bucks are still NBA champions. Just let that soak in for a second. Bucks won the title almost 2 weeks ago, which is just nuts to even think about. Still enjoying every single moment of it. And looking forward to a very interesting offseason to see how the Bucks retool their roster this upcoming season. My bad. Mike was in a terrible spot. So let's go ahead and get right into it right away. Before we do that, again, just want to make sure for everyone to please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. That way you can stay up to date on all my future content. And make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well. Twitter, I'm at downtown_Brown. Instagram, downtown_Brown33, all lowercase for both of those. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The NBA draft was this past Thursday, and it ended up being an interesting one for the Bucks. So going into the draft, the Bucks held the 31st pick of the draft, that being the first pick in the second round, and that was it. But prior to that selection happening, the Bucks traded that pick to the Indiana Pacers, which I think it ended up going to Washington at some point. So many crazy just draft trades happening. It's hard to keep an eye on where all these picks are actually going, but Bucks didn't take that pick. What they got from Indiana in return was 2 second-round picks in this draft, that being the 54th pick and the 60th pick. So 2 of the last 6 picks were held by the Bucks, and they also got 2 future second-rounders, one in 2024 and one in 2026. So interesting move by John Horst there. Not going to get on too much about it, although I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Especially because there were some really nice guards available at pick 31 when the Bucks would have been picking, but the Bucks decided to stockpile some more draft picks, even though they're all second rounders, and move down in the draft instead of just taking that one pick, which I would have preferred them to do, because I think we could have got more of an impact player for the rotation this upcoming season and even in years to come. But again, John Horst just assembled the championship team, and not going to get on him too much for it, but I thought it was an interesting spot to be in, and I wasn't a huge fan of the move. But so we've got 2 new Bucks joining the team here. I wish I could pronounce their names, but they are not easy names to pronounce. So Sandro, the 54th pick was Sandro M. I'll just go with that, out of Seton Hall. Very interesting player. I don't hate this pick at all. I didn't really know much about the guys on the board at the time the Bucks were selecting at pick 54. So to pick a guy maybe with some more upside like they did, not mad about it at all. So this player, he's a 6'11" point forward. So he's kind of like a big guy who can run the offense, similar to a Nikola Jokic. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to be like Jokic. Definitely not saying that at all. But when you look at his skill sets, they kind of match up to what Jokic has. So if everything would work out well with this player, he could be very, very good. But I think there's a lot of unknowns. So 6'11" guy, he played at Seton Hall. Not the most athletic guy, but he's a great passer. He can score in the post, and he's got a decent shot, decent rebounder as well. I mean, he's a big guy. Again, not super athletic, but he could be a guy that could be a Brook Lopez replacement at some point when we don't have Brook Lopez anymore. I mean, Brook is under contract for 2 more seasons, and after that, the future is uncertain. I think he'll stick out the rest of his contract, but again, we don't know what's going to happen with Brook Lopez in a few years. So Sandro could end up taking his place at some point. But for now, I think he's going to be a developmental player. I would not expect him to be in the rotation at all next season. Bottom of the bench guy for sure, joining the bench mob with the Diakites, the Merrills, guys like that. So again, guy that could have some upside. I like some of his skills. Again, similar to a Nikola Jokic in terms of, I mean, that's what his ceiling would be. But again, I think he's got some nice potential in the league, and I didn't hate the pick at all. The Bucks, I mean, we've got some bigs, but to get another younger big on the team, I think could bode them well. So, Sandro, welcome to Milwaukee Bucks, an NBA champion. Hopefully we can defend that title this season. Now, the next pick, the last pick of the draft, is 60th pick, which the Bucks took Sam Merrill with last season. They go with Georgios Kalazikis, something like that, out of Greece. This pick was pretty puzzling to me. I don't understand it. Now, we've hit on a Greek player before, and it worked out pretty damn well for us. But I just don't get the pick. He's a 6'7" forward. Really didn't put up many decent averages in Greece. He's 22 years old, averaged about 4 points last season in the Greek league. Kind of a head scratcher for me. I just don't really get the pick at all. I think he's a developmental player, probably going to play in the G League if that happens next season. I don't see him being a guy that's going to suit up for the Bucks at all in the next year or two. But you know what? The kid could have potential. I really don't know much about him besides that. He seems like he's got some skills. He's a little athletic, but again, 6'7", kind of swing forward. We'll see what he's got. You know, it's hard to find a lot of tape on the player, but again, Georgios, welcome to the team, and I hope it pans out. I didn't really understand the pick there, but you know, it's hard to get a reliable guy with pick 60 in the draft. So to take a guy, just kind of take a flyer on someone and hope that he pans out, that's fine. But again, it kind of just goes back to me that we had the 31st pick in the draft. We could have gotten a really nice impact player. Obviously, you don't know how the player would have been, but there were some really nice guards on the board. Miles McBride, Ayo out of Illinois, Jared Butler out of Baylor. Some really nice players that I wish the Bucks would have taken. Really think could have actually made an impact in the rotation next year and could have had some real upside. Sure, do these guys have upside that we drafted? They do, but I don't think that upside is as reliable as it would have been picking at 31, taking one of those guards on the board, which is a big need for the Bucks backup guard depth. So again, a little bit of a head scratcher for me in the draft, but you know what? Whatever. The Bucks won the title, and I'm going to trust John Horst right now. So we'll see what happens there. So that's the draft. This Bucks Summer League is starting up soon. I think it's shortly after the Olympics. It's like August 9th or 10th, I think, is one of the first games. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm not sure if either of these draft picks are playing. I think Sandro is, but I'm not sure about Georgios. So we'll see what happens there. We do have Jordan Nwora playing in there, Sam Merrill, Elijah Bryant, Diakite. So it'll be nice to see some of those young guys get some opportunity and get some minutes in the summer league, and hopefully they can do something with them. So that's kind of it for me for the draft. Now, the big thing here is free agency. Now, free agency starts tomorrow. Sorry, a little bit stuffy here. Free agency starts tomorrow. They can start negotiating contracts at 5 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. So there's already been a lot of rumors of players going to certain teams and whatnot. But officially, those contracts can be figured out tomorrow at 5 p.m. And then Friday after midnight, those contracts can actually be signed and finalized. So going to be a big week. The Bucks have some pending free agents, some important ones as well. PJ Tucker, Bobby Portis. Those are the two most important ones. Bryn Forbes as well. Jeff Teague, Thanasis, Elijah Bryant has some sort of an option. But that's pretty much it for the Bucks players. So we'll kind of go down of a breakdown of the current Bucks players from the championship team, which ones I think will return, which ones won't. And then also some other guys from other teams to let's see who the Bucks are potentially going to go after on the free agent market. So just a little bit of a cap breakdown. The Bucks were a tax-paying team last season. After they won the title, they went over the tax threshold because Jrue Holiday had some sort of bonus for winning the finals, which put us over. whatever. The Bucks won the title. I don't care. Obviously, it's not ideal. I wish they wouldn't have. Went over the tax threshold. Obviously, I wish they would have won the title, but I wish we could have just somehow stayed under that tax threshold so we could have had a bigger mid-level exception to use this season. But whatever, totally worth it. We won the title, but that's just some information there. So normally the mid-level exception that each team gets that doesn't go against or doesn't even if you're over the cap, you can still use it. It's around 9 million. For the Bucks being a tax-paying team, it's 5.9 million. So just some context there. So let's go down the list of the free agents for the Bucks and my 2 cents on what's going to happen. Let's start with PJ Tucker. So we have bird rights on PJ Tucker, which means that we can sign him to whatever deal we want, and it doesn't matter if we're over the cap. It was the same thing that happened with Pat Connaughton last year. We had his bird rights, so we signed him to a 3-year, $15 million contract. It didn't affect the Bucks. It still goes on the cap, but if you're over the cap, over the tax, whatever, you could still pay those guys, and it doesn't impede you of doing that. So PJ Tucker is rumored to get a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Bucks, and he will return. I would be shocked if he doesn't return, especially because we have his bird rights. It would make 0 sense for us to not bring him back. So 2 years, $20 million. If that actually happens, it's a little more than I'd like. I would like it to be a little bit smaller. 2 years, I don't know, 15 million would be better. But you know what? For PJ Tucker, he's the Durant stopper. We wouldn't have won that series without him, and he's going to be valuable next year. He's not going to be as important in the regular season. I think they're going to ease up on his minutes. I don't even think he'll start. I think we would probably find a different guy to start. I wouldn't be surprised if he did start, but I'm just saying I feel like he's not going to start the whole regular season, but the playoffs he certainly could. But for PJ Tucker, he's a great guy in the playoffs. He's just a good guy to have in the locker room. He was impactful for the Bucks winning the title. He likes Milwaukee. He loves the guys. So you got to bring him back. You traded nothing to get him basically, and he was very impactful for the Bucks this season. So PJ Tucker, I would be shocked if he's not on the Bucks next season. I think that deal will get locked up pretty earlier on this week. So I'm happy about it. I'm glad that PJ is going to stick around because he is super, super valuable in the playoffs. And we saw that, especially in that Nets series, while guarding Kevin Durant. So excited to see that PJ Tucker is most likely back with the Bucks next season. Let's go to Bobby Portis next. Got the Bobby shirt on again today. Had to wear it. But for Bobby Portis, it's a little more complicated. So last year, he signed the biannual exception, which was a 2-year, $7.4 million deal, which was very cheap. He could have got a better deal out on the market. So we don't have Bobby Portis's bird rights. Why exactly? I'm not sure. I think it's because we signed him to that biannual exception. That means we don't have his rights. So he declined his player option for $3.4 million and is an unrestricted free agent. So any team can go after him and sign him to a deal. The Bucks are in a weird position because they can only offer him 120% of his salary last season. So that would be like $4.4 million, or we can give him the $5.9 million tax mid-level exception, which is again, $5.9 million. So that's the most we can offer Bobby Portis. It could be a multi-year deal, but $5.9 million a season is the most that we can offer Bobby Portis. So obviously, if he was to go elsewhere, I think he would get right around double of that from a different team. A lot of teams are cap strapped, but I still think Bobby could get at least 10 million elsewhere. So really, we're selling him on, hey, we just want a title, Bobby. Stick around and let's run it back. You love it here in Milwaukee. The fans love you. You're not going to have that everywhere else, I don't think. Sure, the fans would like him, but it's different in Milwaukee. We just want a title. Let's run it back. You're going to be an important player for us next season if you do come back. And then hopefully after that, after we have his bird rights, we could sign him to a bigger deal and give him the money that he deserves. So it's really, does he want to win, play with the NBA champions, run it back, or does he want to get more money? That's where we're at. I honestly didn't think he would be back, but there was a report today by Mark Stein saying that there's pessimism around the rest of the league that they don't think they're going to be able to pry Bobby Portis away from Milwaukee. So other teams are thinking that Bobby's going to re-sign, which is awesome because we really need him back. He was so big for us this season. both in the regular season and in the postseason, especially in the NBA Finals. So for Bobby Portis, again, if we do sign him, it's going to be that $5.9 million a year, I would assume. That's a great use of the taxpayer MLE, mid-level exception being. So again, it feels like he's going to be back, but I'm still not crossing my fingers quite yet. Depends what kind of offers he'd get out there. So looks like Bobby Portis could very likely be back, but we will see what happens. I think we'll find out sooner than later this week. So that's big news for the Bucks. Let's go to Bryn Forbes next. Bryn Forbes, we signed to like $2 to $3 million per year. It was a 2-year deal. He had a player option this season, which he declined, and he will not be back. I would be shocked if he's back. He declined his option. He deserves to get some more money out there. But interestingly enough, the Nets are rumored to be the favorite to sign Bryn Forbes. There were some other bad teams like the Bulls and 2 other teams that were interested in him. I'm surprised with the Nets thing because I don't think they can pay him much more than we could. So maybe he just wants to win again on a different team, maybe have a different role with the Nets. So for Bryn Forbes, good for you, man. You know what? I'm not going to be mad about it. I like Bryn a lot. He was great in the regular season and in spurts in the postseason, really only in the Miami series, but still, Bryn Forbes was valuable to the Bucks this season, shot 4th in the league in 3-point percentage, right around 45%. From distance. So for Bryn Forbes, you know what? I'm always going to be a fan. I liked him. He was great this season. Great contract signing by John Horst, and I wish him nothing but the best. But Bryn Forbes, he will not be a Milwaukee Buck next season. Other guys, Jeff Teague, I haven't heard anything about him. I'd be shocked if he's back on the Bucks. Just doesn't make sense to me. I think the Bucks are going to get another point guard in free agency that's a little more reliable than Jeff Teague. Now, maybe he signs a vet minimum, which even again, if you're over the tax, if you're over the cap, you could sign veteran minimum contracts. You could still sign any of those, and it doesn't. You're not disallowed from signing even other guys from other teams on a minimum contract, which is like a little over $1 million a season. So for Jeff Teague, maybe he signs a vet min, but I don't see it happening. I think he's probably gone, which is fine with me. And then there's Elijah Bryant. Well, Thanasis first. I think he'll be back on a vet min. I don't think he wants to go anywhere else. I think he still wants to be with Giannis. Giannis wants him here, and give him a vet min. It's not going to do anything to us. So I'm perfectly fine with that. I like his energy off the bench when he's cheering and stuff, and he can give you some decent minutes in the regular season at times. So I'm totally fine with Thanasis back on a vet min, but nothing more than that. And Elijah Bryant has some sort of option. I think it's a team option. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on the team next year, but maybe he is. So that one's inconsequential. So see what happens there. So that's it for the Bucks pending free agents. Now, as far as outside the Bucks free agents, here's a couple guys that have been rumored to be interested in the Bucks, or the Bucks are interested in them. Jeff Green on the Brooklyn Nets, who in Game 5 was 7 for 8 from 3, if I remember right, and had a huge game for them when they beat us in Game 5 to go up 3-2. Bucks end up winning the next 2 to win the series. But Jeff Green was very valuable for the Nets this season. He shot it really well from 3. There's rumored interest, I guess, on both sides. If we get Bobby Portis back, he will not be a Buck. Jeff Green, that is. But if we don't get Bobby, I think Jeff Green is an option for that tax MLE. He's going to want some more money. He played on a vet min last season and drastically outperformed it. So going to be interesting to see what happens with Jeff Green there. But again, I think he's a nice replacement for Bobby Portis if he does leave in free agency. So I don't think that's going to happen, but we will see. Another guy the Bucks are rumored to go after is Lou Williams of the Atlanta Hawks. Again, another team that we beat in the playoffs. Backup point guard he's really like a shooting guard for the Atlanta Hawks. 3-time sixth man of the year. A great scorer off the bench. I think his game has deteriorated, maybe not significantly, but definitely a solid amount. But I still think he can get buckets off the bench. He's not good at defense at all, but he is a playmaker offensively too. He can make plays for other guys. I wouldn't hate the move at all. If it was a vet min, I would prefer that. But even if you got to pay him a hair bit more, I wouldn't mind it at all. Pretty much every guy off the bench has flaws. So for the Bucks, if they're going to get Lou Williams, I wouldn't mind it whatsoever. Another guy that there's been some interest, not sure how true these rumors are, but Derrick Rose is another possible get for the Bucks. I would love it. I think he's great off the bench. He could still play. He played really well for the Knicks last season. He was arguably their best player in the postseason against the Hawks when they lost 4-1. I still think he's got game. There's obviously the injury concerns, but he's been healthy the last few years, and he really looked good last season. So he'd be a great scorer off the bench, can handle the ball, can make plays for other guys. I would love it, but I don't think it's going to happen. I would be shocked if Derrick Rose is on the Bucks next season. One guy that I haven't heard any rumored interest on either way, but I would love the Bucks to get is Patty Mills of the San Antonio Spurs. He's a great shooter, just a really good veteran presence. Been in Popovich's system his whole career, knows how to play the game, isn't the worst defender in the world. I would really, really like it. Again, do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. I think he's going to get a little bit more money than a vet min, but even if we were able to use like some of the MLE on him, if we don't get Bobby, I wouldn't hate that at all. So again, I think that Patty Mills would be a great fit for the Bucks, and I really hope that's someone that we go after. I just don't think it's going to happen. Another guy I would love the Bucks to get too is Alex Caruso. Again, I don't think he'll be on the Bucks, but he'd be a great fit. He's a really good defender. He can shoot the three. He can drive. He's a decent passer. He's just an all-around solid player. And the Lakers will definitely miss him if they don't re-sign him in free agency this season. But again, for a guy like Alex Caruso, I just think he'd be a really good fit on the Bucks. So I don't think that's going to be a guy that we're going to get, but I'm interested to see what happens with him. As far as other free agents go, I mean, I don't really see, I can't think of a whole lot of other guys that the Bucks are going to target. There'll be more rumors coming out here in the coming days, but you know what? The Bucks are NBA champions, and there's going to be guys that might want to take a cheaper deal to play with the Bucks. So again, I think it's certainly possible that the Bucks might get some guys that we wouldn't really normally get in free agency if they want to come play on a vet min and try and win a championship with Giannis, Chris, and Drew. So I think we can definitely get another solid player or two in free agency to help out the Bucks next season. Again, guard depth is a need. The Bucks need backup guards. We saw when Dante got hurt in the postseason that we are very thin in terms of guard depth behind him. So I don't know what's going to happen with Dante and his injury. There's not a whole lot of news about it, like when he'll be back. I think he can miss a good chunk of next season even. So we're going to need some guards to fill in his spot, at least while he's back. And there's a chance that we could trade him as well. I don't think it's going to happen. Like you would think it would happen on draft night, but I think there's still a possibility the Bucks flip him and try and recoup something for him, because Dante's a free agent next season, and I don't see the Bucks paying him unless they get him on a team-friendly deal because he's had injury concerns and he just wants to return to the team. But I don't see that happening. So I think Dante, this could be his last season on the Bucks, or we could trade him before the season even starts. So really curious to see what happens there. There was one player, I gotta look here. Who was it that I was talking to one of my buddies about? Hang on just one second. Oh yeah, Avery Bradley. So Avery Bradley had a team option, I think, and they mutually agreed to part ways with the Houston Rockets, and he's a free agent. I think he's a possible get for the Bucks on a vet min as well. I don't think he's going to get more than that. He's an older player who his defense has definitely deteriorated. He was known as a 3-and-D guy most of his career, especially in his days with the Boston Celtics. But his defense has definitely slipped a little bit, but I still think he could be a valuable role player for the Bucks if he wants to come on a vet min. So that's another name to look out for, is Avery Bradley. I think that he could potentially be on the Bucks next season. So that's all I've got for free agency. Now, there's going to be some trade chatter still. You know, is Damian Lillard available? I don't think he is, but Bradley Beal, I don't think he is either. There's more of a firm belief that Bradley Beal will not request a trade this season. It's a little more unsure about Damian Lillard, but I don't want Damian Lillard. I don't want Bradley Beal. The Bucks just won a title. I want Giannis, Drew, and Chris Middleton to run it back. They are a great big three. They're reliable. They don't get hurt a lot. And they just won a freaking championship and played super well doing it. So There's still people out there like, oh, we should trade Chris or we should look to trade Drew. Like, no, I don't want to trade any of those guys. They just won a championship with this Bucks team, and we need to keep this team together. We could easily win another championship next season. I know that the Lakers just got Russell Westbrook. My thoughts on that are, like, I like the move for them, but I don't know if he's the best fit. Like, he's not a good shooter and he takes a lot of shots. Like, he's going to help because when LeBron and or AD are hurt next season because their bodies are breaking down. LeBron's been hurt 2 of the last 3 years. The only one he wasn't was the COVID year. They wouldn't have won the title in 2020 without the COVID shutdown. AD was hurt too. They got 4.5 months to rest. They would have not won that title. There's no way. I don't think the Lakers are going to win another title with LeBron. I really don't. Westbrook, he's a good player. He really is. He's going to help them, especially if some of those guys are hurt. He's usually available in the regular season and he plays his ass off every single game. But the Lakers only have 5 guys under contract. They got to get some good players to fill out that roster, and they will. They'll get some guys who will come cheap on a vet min to play with LeBron, AD, and Westbrook, but I just don't think they're going to win a title with them. I just don't see it happening. I mean, obviously the Brooklyn Nets are the biggest threat still. If the big 3 are healthy, that team is really going to be really hard to beat. But again, you know what? I don't want to trade our big 3 or really anyone. Maybe Dante if we could get something for him. But as far as the core goes, I don't want to trade him. I want to run it back with this team. I love this team. We just won the title, and we could definitely win it again next year. The Nets will be the biggest threat out of the East and in the NBA, but there's still some other very good teams out there. Well, it'll be interesting to see who stocks up in free agency. Miami's going to be aggressive. Philadelphia is going to be aggressive, even though they're cap strapped. Miami's got some cap to spend, but for Philly, they're looking to trade Ben Simmons, obviously, but they're going to try and get some guys, make some trades. Their GM is very aggressive. They're going to try and win one, but I'm not worried about them. The Nets, they do scare me. They're going to get some good players just because people are going to want to play with Harden, KD, and Kyrie. So we'll see what happens there. But you know what? I'm not trading our core on the Bucks. I'm excited to run it back, and we should definitely want to see that as Bucks fans. So it's going to be an interesting week here. NBA free agency is great. It's super entertaining. It's hard not to just sit there and refresh Twitter all day just because you want to see what's going on. But it's very, very entertaining, and I'm really excited to see what the defending NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks do in this coming off season. So that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this one. Good luck to the Bucks this week and going forward, and go Bucks.